J. Jonah Jameson. He is the devil. He'll convince you that good guys are bad. Whenever you go out, propaganda always shouts, "There goes the devil, Spider-Man." J. Jonah Jameson. He's the self-entitled prick, and by far one of the most remembered and loved characters of all time. And that's because when he talks, everything seems to rhyme with "Get me pictures of Spider-Man," or "Your ass is fired this time." Spectacular, spectacular Spider-Man. Spectacular, spectacular.
Spectacular, spectacular. Spectacular, spectacular. Spectacular, spectacular. Spectacular.
I am Retro. This is Retro Rips.
If you don't know who Spider-Man is, then I can't help you because he's regarded as one of the most popular characters in all fiction. Listen to the theme song that I'm about to sing to you instead of, get a clip of because I'm an idiot. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Slings a web of any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here's the Spider-Man. So yeah, that's great. We all know who Spider-Man is, right? Time to go home. Whoop-de-doo. Wrong. I mean, yeah, sure, it might be true that you know who Spider-Man is, but do you know who the best Spider-Man is? At least in terms of who's been on TV? Now, most 90s kids, when I say something like that, are gonna think back to the Spider-Man TAS series that ran in the 1990s, but, that Spider-Man was good, but it wasn't particularly great or awesome. The acting was kind of stale at times, and there was more to be desired out of Peter Parker as a character, considering that he always walked around looking like he was an adult all the time, even though part of the time he was supposed to be in high school, and other times he was supposed to be in college, so. From 2008 to 2009, Kids WB ran a little Spider-Man show called The Spectacular Spiderman that, in my opinion, was and is still to date the best Spider-Man cartoon to ever air on television. This Spider-Man chose to dwell more on Spider-Man's home life and the life that he lives with his friends more so than his life as actually Spider-Man. By the end of the first episode, we've been all but introduced to most of the major players in Spider-Man's life, give or take a few characters. And despite the fact that they took it upon themselves to introduce almost every single Spider-Man character that you'll ever need to know in the first episode, none of their introductions feel forced or unnecessary, and you actually get the feeling like this is just a normal day in Peter Parker's life. From May Parker to Gwen Stacy to Harry Osborn to his, jackass of a father always up to no good, the stage has been set for what could be Spider-Man's most spectacular adventure to date. In this episode, surprise surprise, one of Norman Osborn's business contacts who is pissed off at him because the deal went south, like it always does with Norman, go figure, comes back as an enemy for Spider-Man to fight.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker, has always been an emotion-driven character. His life is driven by literally what he feels at the time. So if he's feeling really up, things will go really good for him. And if he's feeling like shit, well, things tend to spiral out of control. Because in the end, it's just a metaphor for the fact that Peter Parker has the power to change the world around him, and depending on how he chooses to change it, things will turn out a certain way. Which is why most of what goes wrong in Spider-Man's life is because Peter Parker himself put it upon himself. He literally creates his own demons in a lot of senses. But beyond that fact, Peter Parker's character has also always been about enduring through the worst, making the best out of what you have in life, and striving to make it better, despite the fact that sometimes things are just complete ass and you can't do anything about it. He perseveres, and this show does a really good job of showing that. When he is written at his best, Spider-Man is a teenager going through his angsty teenager problem thingies. If you want to write good Spider-Man, that's the time you basically have to pick from.
Ignoring basic plot elements you should already be familiar with as well as character introductions nobody cares about, the plot goes like this. On their first day back to school from summer vacation, Peter and Gwen are told that they have been chosen to partake in an internship a la Doc Connors, which Peter is really excited about until he finds out he's not getting paid. Peter applies for work at the Daily Bugle, wherein he gets turned down without even a second thought. Meanwhile, Harry Osborn's dad is a douchebag who's getting chased down by a guy in a vulture suit. Go figure. Since Harry and Peter are totes buddies and Peter was right there when it happened, Peter goes after him and things ensue that entail the entire episode. Spider-Man. All joking aside though, this was actually a really good episode. Even for first-time watchers of the series who have never seen Spider-Man before in their life, by the end of the episode, you have a pretty good idea of who Spider-Man is and what he stands for. And the voice acting is actually really good for the time it comes from.
The Spectacular Spider-Man actually takes a couple directions from the Ultimate Universe, a universe wherein Peter Parker dies, and maybe that's why I like it so much. See, it's not that I necessarily want Peter Parker to die, I just don't believe him as Spider-Man as a 35-year-old. He either needs to retire or fall on a fucking bullet. That's all. But that just about does it for this week's episode. I am Retro. This is Retro Rips. I'm not mad at you, okay? I realize that you did what you did because you thought you were looking out for me. But you know, I'm the one who wrote in the Death Note in the first place. Maybe this is a sign. A sign that it's time to give it all up. You brought me back, and I'll always be grateful, but at the same time, I'll always wonder if it was a mistake or not. I mean, look how you disposed of that clone the other day like it was nothing. Is that all I am to you? Just another disposable clone you can fix if things go wrong?